All right, folks, time for our interview with producer, director, writer Jack Thomas Smith. He's on to promote his new film, Infliction. Earlier this year, Infliction opened up in select theaters across the country. Additional screenings have been scheduled this fall due to demand at the Macabre Fair Film Festival in Hoppegaw, New York, Flemington, New Jersey, and Days of the Dead Convention in Atlanta. Infliction is now being represented for international distribution by the foreign sales agency, Cardinal XD, and will be available at all major film markets around the world, including Toronto Film Festival, the American Film Market in Santa Monica, California, Sundance, the Berlin Film Festival, and Cannes. You can pick this movie up at all the normal spots, available on digital downloads and VOD. You can pretty much see this movie anywhere. So we are going to bring him on, Jack Thomas Smith. Jack, how you doing, man? Aaron here.
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show with me and Sean here, and to promote your new movie. Or I don't know if it's so much of a new movie, but you know.
Yeah, I mean it's been out for about 6 months now. Since July 1st, it came out on DVD, and we started last spring with our theatrical run on it. So yeah, it's coming up on about a year now since we initially started everything.
Yeah, I got to watch it today. You had presented us the movie about a week and a half ago, a couple weeks ago, and I wanted it fresh in my mind while I talked to you. You know, so
sure.
I said, I'm gonna wait the last day until I watch it, and I'd have to say I was pleasantly surprised with it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a horror guy. Love horror movies.
Okay.
And in my mind, the subgenre of the found footage film is a little bit played out, but
sure.
in your case, it's used to drive the movie, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And so
absolutely.
What led to that decision of doing the found footage thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you asked me that because honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the quote unquote found footage genre. I'm not. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because we're marketing Infliction not as found footage, but we're calling it assembled footage. And what I mean by that is the difference between found footage and assembled footage is found footage is just that, someone had videotaped or filmed, some event that ultimately led to their demise, and what we're watching is the found footage. It was found after the fact, Cloverfield, Blair Witch, Quarantine, all of that. Whereas with assembled footage, the film was shot with a specific reason, for a specific purpose, and it was assembled for storytelling purposes. So that kind of leads into, your question there about, why did I decide to go that way with this? Well, honestly, the script dictated it. When I started writing Infliction, I didn't set out to do a found footage film or an assembled footage film. The story dictated it. And as you saw, the cameras were absolutely as important to the film as what was driving the brothers to do what they were doing.
You really don't. It's kind of a slow build. I mean, you really don't. I guess you don't give it away right away to where.
Right.
Why are they doing this? What's going on? I mean, are they just a couple of nut jobs? I mean, obviously they have an agenda, but what's going on with their agenda? That isn't really given away till the end. Now, Infliction, was it a project that took you a long time to put together? Because I noticed that there was an 8-year gap between your two films. So,
sure.
What inspired you between 2006 and 2014, and what did you do for all those years?
No, that's a fair question. And to answer it, no, Infliction did not take that long. Essentially what had happened was, the film that I did in 2006 was a film called Disorder, and that was an indie psychological thriller that I wrote, produced, and directed. Did great with it. We shot it in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. It was picked up by Universal, released on DVD. Warner Brothers released it on pay-per-view video on demand. From there, I tried doing my next film, which was a film called In the Dark. And the plan was to do that at the end of '08 into '09. A bigger budget film. We actually had a studio involved with the project. Then the market crashed, if you remember, in '08, and my financial backer essentially took a bath when everything tanked in '08, and I ultimately lost my financing. So then I spent '09 trying to get find other financial sources, but everything was completely dead after the debacle in '08. So then come 2010, I started writing Infliction. So essentially Infliction came to be because it was a smaller project. It was a project that I knew I could do for less money. I didn't have to raise millions of dollars to do it. So I wrote it in 2010, finished in early 11. We shot Infliction in 11. I was in post through 12 and into early 13. Secured distribution by the end of 13, and it was released in 14. So that's the movie business, man. Unfortunately, sometimes it does take years to make things happen, So,
well, yeah, you got to suffer for your art, as they say.
You go through development hell. That's one saying you'll always hear.
Right, exactly. Now, how hard is it to make a film about a killer that isn't masked like in Infliction? I mean, I've read your bio and I've read some stuff. I mean, you're a big fan of all the greats: Stephen King's, John Carpenter's, Stanley Kubrick's, Romero's, all those guys. How hard was it for you to make a movie about a couple of killers that weren't masked, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really hard because here's the thing: is that Infliction is not a horror movie. It's really a psychodrama. That would be the best way that I would describe it. And as you watch Infliction, and look, I'm not giving anything away by saying that Infliction deals with the long-term effects of child abuse, and it's one of those where as you watch the film, you're not sure who are the true criminals and who are the true victims. So the fact that I didn't have a quote unquote like mass killer in it, it's fine because is Infliction a true story? No, it's not, but there's elements of truth in it. But honestly, if I were to say that it is based on a true story, all you'd have to do is turn on the evening news. And I wouldn't be lying. You could see something in Infliction happening somewhere in the world on any given day. And basically that is more horrifying than any guy running around in a ski mask or a goalie mask.
Absolutely. And I mean, it was, once you hit the end of the movie, you realize how powerful the message was that you were trying to convey. Did you have reservations in tackling such, I guess you could say, a taboo topic, so to speak? Because child abuse is a taboo topic, especially the way what these guys went through in the movie.
Sure.
I mean, you touch on a lot of taboo stuff, man, like incest and some stuff that's truly horrific. Where did you draw from as far as that is concerned?
Yeah, I don't want to give the person's name, but I mean there was a person that I once knew, came from a very abusive home, and I saw the cycle of abuse. Her parents had been abused by their parents, and their parents had been abused by their parents, and I saw her siblings having children of their own and not exactly being the best parents with their kids. So, that's kind of what I drew from was it was that whole cycle of abuse, and so, was I ever an abused child? No, I wasn't, thank God. But, I did see it. and that cycle is for real. I mean, look, you're not you're not doomed to abuse children. I mean, there are people that break the cycle, but so many repeat it. And logically you would sit there and think, okay, if I was an abused kid, there's no way I would ever do that to my children, but sometimes these people are so broken and so beaten down that it's just, you don't know where their brain is at, and why they've become what they've become and why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and it definitely it kind of branches out further in as far as addictions, and children of addicted parents, same thing, and it's almost like a giant boulder being thrown in a pond, and that ripple effect through the pond affects everybody.
That's a great way to put it, man. It is. And it's funny that you're saying that, because if you remember in the film too, when they're speaking with the bartender, it's the whole nature versus nurture discussion.
Yep.
The bartender felt that we were just all destined to be our genetics, whereas the younger brother Kenny thought we were all a product of our environment. But then the older brother John, I mean, which is honestly where my personal beliefs are. He felt that it was a combination of both, that obviously you have genetics, so you're going to be predisposed to certain things genetically, but then it's your environment that can kind of tilt you either way. And that's honestly what I personally believe. I mean, I think we have certain things in us genetically, but then obviously, our environment, has something to do with that.
Definitely, it was powerful, and as far as the there are some scenes in the movie, man, where I was like, okay, are they going to kill this person? Like, or are they setting this person up? So definitely built that suspense in that, and very, very good tactful use of like you said, it's like a thriller psychodrama type of thing. There is some gore in it, but not overly done, not super gory,
Sure. I mean, there are horror elements to it because of what the brothers are doing. I mean, they are targeting people, and then you're finding out as the film progresses, why are they targeting these specific people? And, so there are horror elements to it. But I didn't want the film to get bogged down in gore, because that's not what it was about. It's not, hey, let's show these cool effects. It was about the story, the character development, what was driving these brothers to do what they were doing. That's what it was all about. And the gore and the horror was just part of the entire story. But I didn't want it to become the whole story.
I've been reading a lot of, I guess you could say, reviews on IMDb, and you guys you're getting a really good response. And one thing that people are responding to is the acting in the movie. It's pretty good, man. I mean, where did you find these guys?
Yeah, and thanks for saying that. I know they would all love to hear that. We cast locally down in we shot in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'll give a shout out to the casting director. His name's DJ Barton, local guy down in Charlotte. And yeah, I mean, the one beauty about independent filmmaking is you can make things so real and so authentic, going on location and shooting in the real area where the film takes place and using the real local talent in those areas, as opposed to doing a film in Hollywood where, you make LA look like New York, And that was one thing that was very cool about this film, was that for the most part, all the talent that we used, they were locals. They were in the Charlotte area. The lead actor, Jason Mack, he was from Atlanta, and the younger brother, Kenny, his name's Elliot Armstrong, he was from Virginia Beach. So those were the two that we pulled from outside of that area. But everyone else, the sister, her name's Anna Shaw, in real life, she was local. Everyone else was pretty much local, except for the two brothers. They were from, like I said, Atlanta and Virginia Beach. So there's a lot of talent down there. I mean, you don't always have to do everything in Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood, New York, or whatever the case may be. I'm out of New Mexico, so
okay.
They do the same thing here when they're doing TV shows and all that fun stuff. They're casting locally, so it's a good deal for people who are local actors and get to put into the local economy. It's kind of like Walmart versus your local store. You're probably going to get better quality.
Yeah.
You're going to get better quality locally. So
it's a great way to put it, man. Go with the mom and pop stores every day,
For sure. Now, all three, writing, directing, producing, you've done all three. What do you like the most?
Oh, wow. Well, it's definitely not producing. It's because there's just nothing creative there. It's outside of, managing the money and trying to stretch it. But boy, I love writing because, you're creating the story from scratch. You're just kind of pulling the story out of thin air. Where does it come from? But directing is also such a rush, man. I mean, when you're on set and and you're shooting, and there's just like an energy about being on set and then sitting in post when you're editing and watching it all come together. I would say my true passion is directing. That would probably be it, because you're working, you're interacting with so many people, with the actors, the crew, and then your post team, and it's just such a collaborative effort from beginning to end. And then you look back at it, and it's like, God, you watch the film and you can't picture it any other way. And you think, it's like, wow, if that one person didn't suggest that scene would have never turned out that way, So it's kind of a rush. But yeah, I would definitely say directing.
So how much of it, while you were on set, especially with Infliction, how much of it were the actors able to kind of stray from the script and kind of ad-lib their own stuff? I mean, or were you wanting them just to stay strict to your script?
No, I'm the kind of director that, I know there's some directors out there where, they write the script and it's almost like a blueprint and they let the actors run wild. And then I also know there's other directors out there where it's like, just shut up and do it word for word the way I have it written. I am right in the middle. I have no problem with actors making suggestions like, hey, I think it would be better to say it this way or that way. And then I'll listen to the suggestions and I'll say yes or no. It really it depends on what feels right in terms of the whole story. But I am totally cool to getting suggestions from the actors. And it's funny, when we first started doing rehearsals, I remember telling Jason and Elliot and Anna, I said, right now I know these characters better than anyone, but as you guys dive into it, you're going to start telling me things about these characters. And that's exactly what happened. The three of them became those characters to a point where, they were telling me things like backstories, like Jason came up with an idea of a specific watch that John would be wearing throughout the film. And so from that standpoint, when they are so engrossed where they've become those characters, generally their suggestions in terms of tweaking a line or an action or whatever is pretty spot on. So I'm totally cool with suggestions, but at the end of the day, you do have to have the one person that makes that final decision.
Yeah, definitely.
So
that's where you come
that's
in.
what I'm cool with.
That's awesome. So what's next for you? What do you got brewing? I mean, obviously being a creative guy and a writer, I'm sure you've got a lot of stuff written. Do you have anything that you're tackling next, or are you just kind of letting this simmer here for a while?
Oh, no. Yeah, I never stop.
Yeah.
I mean, you nailed me, man. I mean, I'm always on to the next project. I'm marketing Infliction like crazy, but I also have another script written Earlier in our conversation, I mentioned the film In the Dark. That was the one a few years ago that I'd gotten very close to getting off the ground. The script is already written. I've actually done a rewrite on it, just tweaked some things on it. But that is the next one that we're tackling right now. So we're meeting with investors right now. Knock on wood, we're trying to raise our startup capital so that we can start making offers to some bankable stars. It's a pretty big size budget film. So we will be targeting, certain stars that can, generate foreign pre-sales for us, get us a theatrical release. That film In the Dark, that's hopefully the next one I'll be doing, and I'm hoping to shoot it either later this year or early next year.
Awesome. And I'm really excited that this movie is getting good response and people are, wanting more of it or to see it more, and they're allowing you to take it on tour, so to speak. It's much deserved. It's a pretty cool movie, man. Far as
thank you.
The compiled footage, speaking, it is powerful. I do got to say, I rarely do have chills at the end of a movie, and this one gave me chills. I was like, whoa, that was a trip, because I just didn't.
I mean, it's a heavy subject matter,
Yeah. Nobody wants to tackle child abuse, and if they do, it's like you got to be really careful on how you're going to do it, and you make sure you're doing it in a tasteful way,
Sure. And I mean, and that's the whole thing, when you're talking about the found footage genre, is that so many times, I mean, that's what kind of makes Infliction unique. And thank you for mentioning the reviews we've been getting. I mean, we've been getting a lot of really good positive reviews. What makes it different is that when you think of found footage, you're thinking of Cloverfield or Quarantine, and you have all these over the top sound effects, and it's and the one thing is, the main guy shooting, it's like put down the camera and run, instead of shooting the monster knocking buildings over, put the camera down and run, So I didn't want to do that with Infliction. I wanted the cameras to have a specific reason why they were on at all times, and when you watch the film, it all comes together at the end, why they're doing what they're doing and why the cameras were so important. So I'm mentioning that about Cloverfield and Quarantine because that was the one thing I did not have a luxury of with Infliction, because this was a character-driven, story-driven, found footage, assembled footage film. I didn't have the over-the-top sound effects. I didn't have machine gun fire, monsters roaring, buildings crashing down.
Yeah.
And because it was a found footage film, I didn't have the luxury of cue suspenseful music to build a tension scene, like you do with traditional films. So I had to keep the audience engrossed by the characters, the story. That was a challenge. That was a challenge because I did kind of pigeonhole myself that, okay, we're doing almost like a psychodrama film without creepy music, and we don't have over-the-top sound effects. How do we keep the audience engaged? So it seems like it worked, and that was a testament to the actors also to keep everyone involved.
Well, yeah, you didn't. I guess you could say, like you say, pigeonhole yourself. You could have gone the super gory route.
Right.
You could have gone, kind of shaky cam style, but it
sure.
It played itself out really good, and I think, like you said, that almost the them holding the cameras it had to be a part of the movie. It's what made the movie. It wasn't just let's just throw a documentary movie together, just something like that.
Exactly.
It wasn't like that. It was these guys recording their murder spree. Now, I got a fun question for you here real quick before we wrap up. We got another couple minutes with you.
Cool.
Since you are a horror guy, you come from horror. Again, I read some of your stuff, your bio. Being inspired by the greats, Romero, Carpenter, Kubrick, all those guys. If you had a chance to remake any horror film from your youth, which would it be?
Oh, I mean, Dawn of the Dead. the original Dawn of the Dead, man. And I know they already did a remake on it, but man, that is my all-time favorite horror film. I would go Dawn of the Dead. And actually, for years, I used to say I would love to remake The Crazies, George Romero's version from the 70s, and then obviously they did it a few years ago. So, yeah, Dawn of the Dead all the way.
Now, quick question, and Dawn of the Dead had a couple of the original Dawn of the Dead out there for everybody who's wondering, had a couple of, I guess you could say, takes. Wasn't it Argento who did his little spin on it, his little editing, and put his music to it?
Yeah, he did put some music in that. Yeah, and actually he's credited in it.
Yeah, but didn't they release a different version in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think, oh, geez, and don't quote me on this, but I think in the U.S. they actually had to cut it down. I think that they were doing, if that's what you're getting at, they did a lot of battles with the MPAA, and a lot of it had to do with the effects, too, because Tom Savini was doing the rear exit wounds, on the gun blast when they would shoot a zombie in the forehead, and then he would also blow out the back of their heads, and the MPAA was having a big problem with that. So I believe, in terms of Dario Argento, I'm not sure what his version was, how different, but I know in the U.S. they had a ton of problems with the MPAA getting that film even rated. Yeah,
I had to educate Sean, hi Sean, who's I had to educate Sean on the whole Dawn of the Dead zombie, Lucio Fulci zombie debacle,
Right.
How Fulci put out Zombie and put it out as Zombie 2, which Dawn of the Dead was put out in as Zombie in Italy, and how he just totally tried to rip Romero off, and they're like, we're not having this. It's just crazy Italian stuff. So, other than that, man, where are you going to be next? Screening this movie, touring it?
Oh yeah. Well, we got a bunch coming up. It's going to be in Atlanta next Saturday at the Days of the Dead convention. That's February 7th, and then we're also going to. I won't be at that one because I'll be at the screening in New Jersey. It's actually we're doing a cool screening. It's at the Edge Sports Facility. It's like this big open sports facility where they're going to have a screen there. They're telling people to come out, and this in Flemington, New Jersey. If you want to just bring lawn chairs or blankets or whatever, and we're just going to hang out. It's almost like an indoor-outdoor screening of the film. Awesome. And then, we're lining up other screenings right now. Days of the Dead is real supportive, and it seems like we're going to be screening at all their various conventions.
Very cool, man. And where can everybody find this film?
Oh, yeah. Well, our official website is inflictiontapes.com, so they can find out information there. We have like 10 Twitter accounts going, massive social media campaign going, but our primary Twitter account is at Infliction Tapes. We're on Facebook. The Facebook page is Infliction Tapes. And in terms of retailers, it's available in FYE stores, Columbia House, Walmart.com, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Amazon. You can rent it on Google Play, Vudu, Cinema Now, Family Video just picked it up. So it's all over the place.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on with us. They can follow you on Twitter at JackSmith1. Go follow him and at Infliction Tapes. We appreciate you coming on with us, man.
Thanks for having me on. I had a blast.
Awesome. Well, we hope to have you back when you put your next thing out. And please tweet us, @mention us if you're looking for anything to promote anything. And if looking for Kickstarter stuff, we'll be more than happy to retweet for you. All right?
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, Jack. Good job on the movie, man. You take care. It was great meeting you.
Yep. Same to you. Have a great night. Same to you. Have a great night. Same to you. Have a great night. Same to you. Have a great night.